when people are living in this gap between how they appear to the world and how they really feeling, they don't want to look at this emotion because it is painful. What they'd rather do is distract themselves from all these things in their external environment so they don't have to look. But when that feeling isn't going away, and they can't, after the sports car and after the, the vacation and after the buying the new things, the new wardrobe, the facelift, whatever, and this feeling keeps returning, this is a time really where they have to look at that emotion. And they have to, as you said, you have to be in the presence of that emotion and ask some fundamental questions. Are these emotions driving my thoughts? How do I think when I feel this way? Now, those thoughts are just old circuits that have been fired and wired in the brain. How do I behave? What do I do? How do I act? What do I say? What comes out of my mouth? Now think about this. If you can observe how you're thinking, notice how you're acting, and pay attention to how you're feeling, the moment you become conscious of what you're unconscious to, it means you're no longer the program. Now you're the consciousness observing the program, and this is when we begin to objectify our subjective selves. And the more we can look at ourselves through the eyes of someone else, the more conscious we can become of that, the less unconscious we're prone to be in our normal life. So the word meditation, the symbol of meditation in the Tibetan language literally means to become familiar with. So if you're becoming familiar with your unconscious thoughts and making them conscious, you're in a process of meditation. If you're becoming aware of your automatic habits and behaviors, and now you're so aware of them you would never become unaware of them again, and you look at those emotions that bring you to a lower level, and you're so familiar with your pain and your sorrow and your suffering that you would never allow yourself to live in that emotional state again. This is the moment you're Gandalf on the bridge and you're saying, you may not pass ever again. Now, when you make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional addiction in your body, and your body begins to respond to a new mind, that's the moment the past no longer exists in your body. That's the moment you come out of your resting state, yes, and your body is getting a sampling of the future instead of living by the memory of the past. Now, think about this. How can a person in the deep south of the United States move into a state of religious ecstasy and drink strychnine and have no biological effects? How can a mother who has her child caught under the car make the decision to lift that car up and pull the child out? The mother doesn't say, hey, I had carbohydrates today and I haven't worked out in 2 weeks. She doesn't think like that. The decision is final, and the choice carries an amplitude of energy that becomes an experience that she never forgets. And that's the moment she is no longer her biology, she's no longer her body, she's no longer associated with her identity and her environment, and she is transcendent of time. So in order for us to truly change who we are, we have to begin to come out of our resting state and begin to teach the body emotionally what the future is going to feel like. Now, let me just explain this. So most people say they want abundance, but they really don't want abundance. What they really want is freedom. Some people say they want a new relationship, but they really don't want a new relationship. They want to feel and give love. Some people want success because they want to feel empowerment. They want the mystical moment to feel awe. They want a healing to feel wholeness. Now, they'll wait for the experience to happen to feel that emotion. But that's the Newtonian model of reality, of cause and effect, waiting for something outside of us to change how we feel inside of us. And when we feel better inside of us, we pay attention to whoever or whatever caused that, cause and effect. The quantum model of reality is about causing an effect, which means you have to teach your body emotionally what empowerment feels like before your success. You have to be whole before your healing. You have to be in awe before the mystical moment. You have to feel freedom and abundance before your wealth appears. And when we do that, then To the materialist, it would seem really insane or foolhardy because the event hasn't happened. But to the quantum mind, though, the body is getting a sampling of the future before the experience occurs. And if we do this properly and we marry it with a clear intention, the body begins to believe it's in the future instead of in the past. And now we're defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past. And so we teach people how to come out of their resting state. Unfortunately, as I said, most people wait for the crisis to come out of their resting state, and where they say this is enough. But everybody already knows how to do this, because everybody that's on this call has already done something great in their life. And what did they do? They made a decision. They had a vision. They got inspired by that vision. They decided what thoughts would support them to that vision, what behaviors and choices they were going to make. They felt enthusiastic, and they began to get their behaviors to match. Their intention, and they changed. Now think about it when we set out to do something and we didn't accomplish it. We got lazy, we had a vision, we got emotional, we got too busy, stress got in the way, we had social appointments, and we traded that vision for mediocrity. So we come out of our resting state and the body has to be energized with a new frequency. And we were capturing in our last workshop probably 40,000 times the amount of energy in people's brains when they did this. Now, 40,000 times the amount of energy, give you an idea. When people's brains are firing in normal, limited consciousness, we're about 10 to 60 microvolts squared of energy. We're talking about 1,000,000 microvolts of energy in a person's brain. I mean, you can charge your iPhone with that. That is how powerful we really are. So then, as we begin to overcome and overcome and overcome those limitations that block the flow of the divine in us, as we begin to remove those layers, we begin to feel connected to something greater. And then the next challenge appears. When we begin to get our mind and body right, and we begin to look at what piece of knowledge could we apply to this adversity, to change something about ourselves, to get closer to source, I think that when people really begin to realize that there's no structure out there, there's structure. For drugs, there's structure for alcohol, there's structure for gambling, there's structure for video gaming or overeating or shopping or all of consumerism. You take a pill and it makes that feeling go away immediately. You're going to correlate that internal change with whatever you did to take that, and you're going to develop an attachment or an addiction. And what that does is it begins to broaden the gap. And you could be the wealthiest, the most successful, the most popular person, the most good-looking person in the world, but if you haven't overcome that emotion right there, you haven't evolved in one lifetime. And this is where we have to begin to look at where we're going to make the biggest contribution to ourselves, because as we begin to understand that the soul cannot create a future experience, and the soul wants to really have new events and novel experiences, if you're living by the same emotion every single day and you're anchored emotionally in your past and your body's been conditioned emotionally to be in the past, then until you overcome that emotion, the soul can't get on with creating anything new, because for the most part, you're bound to a past experience. So when we begin to overcome the emotions, then we're literally pulling our mind out of the past, and that's when we begin to create a new future. If you begin to embrace this paradigm on the deepest level, then the soul's real desire is really to experience the unknown, to experience something new. And so if you're living and feeling the same way every single day, then it means nothing new is happening in your life. And that boredom right now I'm going to speak for you, that boredom, or that predictable, familiar emotion, is what's nagging at you and bothering you, because you know on a soul level there's more to experience. So then, as you begin to look at the old identity, and this is where we get stuck, is that for most people it's their personal reality that's creating their personality. You know, it's the media and the social engagements and the advertising and television and and the people and things in our life. We're reacting to everything known in our life, and by consciously or unconsciously, when we see certain people, we go to certain places, we do certain things at the exact same time. It's the external environment that's controlling how we think and feel. So if you understand that, then it would be a good idea to eliminate yourself from your external environment. That's called meditation. You close your eyes, and now you have less sensory information coming into your brain. You put in earplugs or you play music, and that fills the space. So now your inner world starts becoming more real than your outer world. You put your body away. You're no longer your body. You're no longer a face. You're no longer identity. And if you do it properly, you'll forget about time. Now, that elegant moment where you dissociate from your body, your identity, your things in your life, the people in your life, the places in your life, and time, that's the moment you become pure consciousness. Now, if you're thinking certain thoughts that are making certain chemicals for you to feel a certain way, and the moment you feel that way, you think more thoughts, and those thoughts create more feelings, and your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. It's an artifact of the past. You're thinking in the past, and those emotions that feel familiar are a record of the past. Then for the most part, people are trying to view their future through the lens of the past. They can't get anywhere. So then, as we begin to no longer think and feel in that cycle, and we dissociate into thought alone, the energy that's feeding all of our sexual identity, all of our digestion, all of the energy for importance and control and the adrenal hormones, all that energy has got to go somewhere. And the first place it goes right into the heart. And you know you're getting close when all of a sudden you start to feel your heart open up. When that occurs, the moment that occurs, you're no longer living in your past identity. That's the moment you're completely in the present moment.